Welcome back, everyone, to OpenLine. We are talking about the fentanyl epidemic. We have a lot of guests, and we have now two new guests up here to kind of shed a new light on this issue and come at it from a different perspective. I'm really happy to have with us Sergeant Mike Hotz. He is with the Metro Police Department, and Candace Sexton. She is with the Davidson County Medical Examiner's Office. So you are with the coroner's office here, the medical examiner's office. Yeah, yes, here in Davidson County. What we've heard, you know, in the first segment, how bad it is. Do you have some numbers that kind of put into perspective what we're seeing in Davidson County and in Middle Tennessee?
I do. We're also Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center, not just Davidson County Medical Examiner. So there are 52 counties in Middle Tennessee that we provide an autopsy service for. Now, not all of their suspected overdoses in the county are going to come to us for autopsy. That's up to the county medical examiner. But the numbers that I have are the ones that actually come to our office. So when fentanyl started hitting, when I started taking note, was in 2016. So just to give you an idea of how things have escalated over the years, we started out with Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center being 102 deaths with fentanyl in their system. So it started out in 2016, 102. And
that's over a lot of counties.
That is 52 counties, but again, not every county is going to send every single suspected overdose.
Okay.
Then it went to 180 in 2017, 346 in 2018. Then it jumped to 598, and in 2020 it was 1,014, and in 2021 it was 1,198. And that's 1,198 people that died in Middle Tennessee with fentanyl in their system that I'm aware of. There are other people that have died within other counties that did not get sent that I'm not aware of. So I can't imagine what it is across the state. And the numbers just keep going up and increasing. And I know we've had the conversation within Metro and the DA's office and the health department many a time when we meet and say, at some point it's got to even out. At some point something's got to change. And the numbers just keep going up and up.
Those are shocking numbers when you think there are 365 days in a year and there are that many deaths, 1,100 and something deaths, just in not even every county. And you're not even getting every one from the counties that you serve. So that's a huge number.
Exactly. And in Davidson County for 2021, it was 568. So out of that 1,198, you have 568 that were in Davidson County alone.
So let me ask from a police perspective, why the increase? Why are we seeing such just insane increases in this?
There's a significant number of factors that contribute into why we're seeing the increases, but several of them that I can point to is an increase of the amount of fentanyl that's on our streets today, as well as the extremely inexpensive nature of it. It's very cheap to purchase on the street. Plus, a lot of them are unintentional, where a person believes that they're purchasing one type of drug when really it actually contains none of that drug and is just loaded down with a fatal dose of fentanyl.
And how tough are cases? Can you go after somebody who is selling something? I don't know, if you're trying to buy one drug and it's all fentanyl, do you go after them for that? What do you do?
It is certainly challenging, but it's a challenge that we accept and embrace. We definitely prosecute fentanyl and fentanyl-related cases. We prosecute the distribution. We've had a shift of focus in recent years from small misdemeanor drug arrests to the large-scale distribution cases, as well as what my unit, the Neighborhood Safety Unit, does. In particular, we investigate drug overdose deaths and try and hold those accountable who sell these deadly drugs and kill people with them.
And that means in Davidson County, again, 365 days in the year, you're seeing at least a death a day, but it's really more than that.
We will see oftentimes, you know, when I first started in this area, I worked at the ME's office 15 years ago, having 10 bodies for examination in a day was a lot. Now we're lucky if we get 10. And a lot of times the majority of those cases for the day are going to be overdoses. And I think another reason that things keep increasing and the deaths keep increasing is, you know, it originally started out when heroin made a comeback. And then it was used as a cutting agent. Well, then everybody's, I like this new cutting agent, I want just that, or give me some more of that. And they became addicted and started asking more and more. And then you started seeing it in cocaine. And then you started seeing it in crack cocaine. And then you started seeing it in methamphetamine. Then they started making the pressed pills. So each time that they change a way that they're putting, or another substance that they're putting it in, that's a whole nother demographic. And Nashville's a party city. Cocaine's a party drug. When it hit with cocaine, the deaths started to increase, and we just start seeing more and more deaths because of this.
All right, we have several people on the phone, so I'm going to go ahead and start taking some calls here. Let's go to Eddie, who has been waiting. Hello, Eddie.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Okay, how y'all doing this evening?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. I've got a question for you. It's something I've been hearing. I heard that they're taking the fentanyl, diluting it in water, putting it in a sprayer, and spraying it on marijuana. Have you seen that or heard that, or how true is that?
That is not an extremely prevalent trend right now. However, there is potential for it to be a trend down the line. There have been no confirmed cases of fentanyl-laced marijuana in Davidson County. There were, however, a few of them in West Tennessee that were about 2 years ago.
Why would you put fentanyl in marijuana? Why are they doing that?
That's a great question.
I can only speculate as to the motivation of the drug dealers and the cartels that are putting this poison on our streets, but I think a lot of it boils down to making money and having little or no concern for people's lives, as well as potentially trying to create a generation of addicted individuals that'll be, a client base or of drug purchasers in the future.
But it sounds like it just kills people. So I don't know what kind of client base they're building if they kill their clients.
Where there is demand, there will always be supply.
Wow. Another thing, all right, and I don't want to go too far down this, but you hear these reports that someone picks up a dollar bill and maybe there's fentanyl in there and it's fatal, or it's caused them to go to the hospital. Some of those are debunked completely, and maybe we can just do that now. Is that something that happens, or what about some of those reports that you've heard?
Every individual case is different. However, when fentanyl first came on the scene, just to give a little perspective when it comes to fentanyl poisoning, 2 milligrams is enough to kill an average-sized adult human being. And now if you take the analogy of a sugar packet, within that sugar packet, if it was contained fentanyl, there would be 500 lethal doses of fentanyl. Now, when it first came on scene, there were a lot of misconceptions about being able to be absorbed through the skin, as well as other things. Fentanyl in its powder form or other forms will not be absorbed through the skin unless you have an open wound, or if it goes into your eyes, or if it's inhaled. It is a very fine powder and can be. So I can't say whether or not, each particular case was an overdose, but I can tell you that because the danger was so unknown, there were a lot of cases that were considered psychosomatic, where a person thought they had been exposed, which actually caused a physical bodily reaction which made them feel like they were overdosing.
We don't need to hype this or scare people, because the facts are scary enough. I think some of that you saw out there on social media might have been overhyped. I don't know what was going on. Fear-mongering. Maybe it's psychosomatic, but some of that's not there. There's enough here to be concerned about without some of that crazy stuff. All right, and you're not aware of anything like that, right? Or
with the sprayed on marijuana? Or?
Well, if you pick it up like on a dollar bill or something.
Of course, you always hear that. And there are enough cases where we find on scene that we respond out to on death scenes where there is a powder that's unknown and it's in a folded dollar bill or a folded $5 bill. So I'm sure that the potential is there. But do I think that it's exaggerated in some cases? Probably. That's a whole nother spectrum that I'm busy enough. I don't have, I can't keep up with all of it. There's always urban legend out there. Putting fentanyl with marijuana was one of those. We know that there have been cases, but as far as the medical examiner's office is concerned, that's nothing that we can prove We can say there's THC in the system and we can say there's fentanyl in the system, but unless it's witnessed and exactly what it is that they're smoking is confiscated by police and that's tested, there's no real way for us to be able to prove that.
Let's go to Granger. Hello, Granger.
Hey, how are you this evening? Listen, my question is, do you have any way to tell if some of these deaths may be suicide? Because we know there's a strong link between drug abuse and suicide, and I just wonder if you have any way to tell.
That's a great question. You know, I'm sure that there are some deaths that have been classified as an accidental overdose that could potentially be suicide, but that's not something that's easy to prove. Our doctors, when they certify the death and they're putting a cause and manner of death on a death certificate, they have to be able to testify to that in court. Just because there's a high level of drug in the system doesn't mean necessarily that it's a suicidal overdose. If there is a suicide note left behind, if they left communication, text messages, a Facebook message, a video specifically stating, I want to end my life and I'm going to do it in this way, well then of course it's going to be considered and probably ruled a suicide. But that's something that's very difficult to prove. And again, unless the doctors can testify in court, they're not going to put that down. It has to be 100% in their mind that it's a suicide before they'll even consider it.
And we, along with our partners at the medical examiner's office, we do extensive crime scene investigations at the scene of overdose deaths. And usually there would be some indicator of suicidal ideology. We aim to bring attention to the fact that these are people who think they're ingesting one drug, but really it's a fatal dose of another. And the amount of proven suicides that we would say were attributed to fentanyl are extremely minimal.
Give us a typical case. Obviously you can't give names or whatever, but what's a typical case if you were to construct it, you know, maybe based on a few? What is it that you're seeing here in Davidson County? You walk up, you investigate. What are you seeing?
So every case is going to be different, and a lot of our methods of investigation need to remain confidential. However, what I can say is that, you know, it all starts at the scene of the overdose death. As I mentioned earlier, we do an extensive investigation there, and we look for any indicators, anything on the scene that would lead us to find out where that person purchased that drug. And in Tennessee, if somebody distributes unlawfully a Schedule I or a Schedule II drug that proves to be the proximate cause of death, they can be charged with second-degree murder. There's obviously a lot of steps in between the death and the prosecution, but that is the main goal of the Neighborhood Safety Unit, and that's what we strive to do every day, as well as to stop the flow of fentanyl to our streets.
And the flow in Nashville, where does that flow come from? What are you seeing?
Largely, we're seeing links down to the cartels south of the border. We are seeing extensive and complex distribution drug trafficking organizations that have found ways over the years to transport it from south of the border up to us. You know, there's only one major precursor of chemical of fentanyl, and that's 4-ANPP, and gallon-sized loads, barrels of it are being shipped from China to Mexico on a regular basis, and these drugs are being mixed not in controlled pharmaceutical settings where it needs to be mixed and dosed. They're being mixed in blenders and grinders, and then the uneven consistency, the amount of fentanyl in one batch could be significantly different and fatal in another.
Even with the pills, you could have one pill that has one level of fentanyl in it and another that's got twice as much in the same, and they can give you a little baggie of pills and it be that way. Every pill have a different dose of fentanyl in it.
Good grief.
And for us, what it looks like, what we see more and more of since fentanyl's come on the scene is people dying with syringes still in their hand. We've had where the pills are still in their hand. They swallow it and almost die immediately. And their positioning when they're on scene, you can tell that, you know, they ingest the drug and it's like they just fall forward where they are. They don't even have the chance to lay down, or they just immediately fall over. And you know, we refer to that a lot of times as a drug that's a DRT drug. You're just dead right there. Versus cocaine, where it will get you to the hospital, or methamphetamine will get you to the hospital at least, but more and more we're seeing this instant death. Our scene numbers have jumped up tremendously. Sometimes 2, 3, 4 in a day that we're going out in Davidson County.
What kills you? Is it, do you stop breathing? Does it stop your heart? You take it, what would cause you to die that quickly?
Honestly, I'm not a doctor, so I would hate to go into all that. I'm just a lonely little investigator.
That's astounding that it's happening that quickly.
It's very astounding, and the numbers are astounding. It's shocking, and to hear these families, I mean, this is 1,198 families that we talk to, and to hear how upset they are and hear the guilt in their voice and the pain, and to hear that several times a day. I mean, my entire team, we're all exhausted. It wears down on you. I mean, and you have to feel for the community and these families that are having to suffer through this, and see so many of their loved ones and their friends and their children's friends, and wondering, well, when is it going to be mine? And I can't imagine what they're going through.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. If you're on the line, hold on. If you want to call in, there is the number. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.